live a life of fear.
Deathgivers are strong, and this build is in the top 5 for the recent meta. I'm not usually one to play daggers, but now is as good a time as ever to get into it. The build is Deathgivers, Stalker Hood, Merc Jacket, and Assassin Shoes. You take Q1, which pairs well with the Chain/W and Assassin Shoes for maximum stickiness and brawl power. Fight 1 is against Bella 4.1 using a Great Frost. After resetting mob aggro and dismounting, I move away to wait out PvP cooldown and eat my stew as soon as I can. They blink in with Frost Nova and immediately drop their E, and I close the gap with Boots. They accidentally aggro a nearby mob with Q and pop their Assassin Jacket to drop the aggro and make space for me. Pop out with Poison and Mage Cowl, and I don't have any movement abilities off CD, so I kite away. Once my boots are up, I dash in and land a few Qs, as they drop their E's and Frost Nova out. I use Chain Slash to catch up again, thinking I had a third Q stack for a free E, I burn my cooldown. I pop Stalker Hood and Q, bringing us both very low health, and I use my defensives while waiting out Boot CD to just narrowly win the fight. This first fight with the build already has a bunch of teachable moments. Use Stalker to reveal enemies ASAP, don't wait. Use Merc Jacket when you're missing any significant HP and have the ability to still brawl. Don't save it for next week. Same goes for Gigpot. Use it right after their Assassin Jacket would have been ideal. Mitigating their bonus damage and using it when already low health doesn't do much and even mitigates the potential healing. That being said, the build already seems fun with high damage and stickiness. The main misplay from the Frost player here was their initial waste of W to dash in towards us, and then generally staying too close and then not continuously kiting away. On to fight 2. While lurking near a chest waiting for it to spawn, a tier 7 quarterstaff player comes up unmounted, and since I'm looking to limit test with this build, I'm thinking I should take him, and I dismount to posture for a fight. After bumbling around for a little bit, a tier 7 fiber gatherer with dual swords shows up. They probably don't have much kill pressure, but they do pose a third party risk. The staff player completely whiffs an E, and it's back to posturing while waiting for the chest to pop. It's a green, and the staff player whiffs another E before going to channel at the chest. I'm down to fight, so I interrupt them with a Q, and then walk away to avoid their Q. I interrupt them again, this time with Boots, plus a Q. They hit me with a stun run plus Q, and my Chain Slash makes them whiff their E for a third time. I follow up with a Stalker Hood plus the free E, they immediately Assassin Jacket, and this is now the second example of me wasting the Stalker Hood against an opponent with Invis. I kite up back towards the chest, and then the staff player's Invis runs out with them trying to escape southwest. I move to follow them down, and they turn with a stun E combo. And I use the full combo on them once their stun is over. And I try to use Stalker Hood before the double E to finish them, but instead, the GCD lets them outrange the E, and I lose what would have been a juicy kill. The dual swords gatherer dismounts to try to catch them, and I mount up to go next or catch up. A minute later, I run into the same quarterstaff player and I dismount to see if they want to fight again, and they dismount as well. I inspect and see they have the same spells equipped as before. They hit me with the first tick of their W, and I move out, knowing I'll need my movement to dodge their E. I W as soon as they're in the air with their E, and it's time for Q spam. I boost and stay on top of them, and after a few Q casts, they're just out of range for the third stack on them. I use my E with 2 stacks to avoid their W, and now that I'm on top of it, they jacket, and I finally have the right idea to Stalker Hood, but I use it too late, and they're already far enough to avoid it. They pop out with an E, and I dodge with Boots. They follow with their W, and I dodge with mine. I pop Merc Jacket to try to get health back in the brawl, but their Guardian Helm prevents my healing while they're shielded. That's when the other player from a few moments earlier shows up with a baton. After getting caught by their W, I try to escape with Boots dash to the staff player, but it's already too late for me and I get poked down. Lame death, but now we know this build is strong enough at T5 equip with low spec to fight tier 7, and have another reminder that Stalker Hood reveals in Viz. Quick run restart with the same items and spells at 4.1 again. Fight 3 is against a tier 7 Claws player over another chest. They mount up after seeing me dismount near them, likely thinking I'm either not alone or they just didn't inspect me yet. I use the cheeky tech of requested to join their party so I can see if they're already in a group. Since the denial message shows their name, I have a little bit more confidence that they're alone. I posture up to maybe start a fight and they miss a Shadow's Edge cast. I boots in and pop my Merc during their E, since they won't be able to move away and I can get okay value. Once I hit 3 stacks, I blow everything to see how much burst damage there is and take them from 80% to 40% health. At this point, I realize I'm cooked and they will kill me, but I have no escape, so I just have to bluff it and keep fighting. They thankfully use Jacket to run away themselves. I realize my own stupidity and finally eat my food and move back to the chest to get my mount available in case more people show up. The Claws player dismounts semi-close and I realize my opportunity and dash at them. I get in a Q and they stun me with their W into their E. This time I cancel their E with Chain Slash and stay hitting them. They pop boots and start to run, and I use my E to stay close, since my boosts are still on cooldown, and manage to catch them at near max range with a dash plus Q for the kill. Unfortunately, nearly their whole set trashes, but when we get back to open the chest, we get a pleasant surprise. Okay, now that we have the Caroline cape, the set is fully online. This cape lets us double cast Q off the start of a fight, meaning we only have to wait for the Q cooldown once before getting off the first E. So the initial game plan of the fight looks something like this. Boots in, double Q, Chain Slash to stay sticky, third Q into Stalker double E. 2277 damage on the dummy at 400 DPS with 4 dashes to stay stuck. So many groups ganking right now. May as well use the portal. Had to brag for the miss. Fight 4 is with the tier 6 overcharged warbow player and an Abbey. Until now, I've faced opponents who have favored close combat, but against a bow, I'll need a way to catch up to them from farther away. I consider taking dash for generally more versatile mobility, but settle on Shadow's Edge and hope that I can land it as a dagger's noob. I narrowly dodge their E while waiting cooldowns and start off with a W. Because of Caroline Cape, I get off 2 stacks before they can W away, and after my boots dash, instead of just using E, I impatiently use Stalker Hood, and then they walk out of my E range. They move up and don't manage to hit me with their skill shots, and I'm able to re-engage with the boots dash. They use their Assassin Jacket, and my Stalker Hood is just barely still on CD by the time I can cast, and they have moved. They use E, and the stand time allows me to land another W. I get my third Q stack on them, and the timing works in my favor, as they W the same direction as my E dash. I use my second E cast to maintain closeness and pressure, and they almost make it out with their boots, but since they run in a straight line, I'm able to land my W and take them down. Fight 5 is immediately after with a tier 7 Bear Plus player, who shows up as I'm opening the coffer. They have a Purge hat and royal shoes, likely to remove my Merc Jacket, and will be hard to catch with a longer sprint. Fight starts with my dash and double Q. They immediately start running with W and boots move speed. Chain Slash gets me close enough for the third Q and an E. They turn and I pop Merc early since I'm sure it'll be purged regardless, and I use boots to close the distance for a second and third Q. Since they're below half health, I go for the execute with Stalker into double E, and unfortunately they're left with about 15% health left and their Abbey buff is move speed, letting them create good amount of space. Then tragedy strikes as I use boots dash, hoping it would maybe click me around the corner or something, but instead I get a slowed animation into the wedge of the door, and at this point I have no way of catching up to them. Fight 6 is against the Tier 8 combo Brawler's Glove. A good build, but countered by Gig Pots, which we have. They dash in and I immediately gig, mitigating most of the damage in CC from their combo. After their Cleric Robe reset, I use my free E cast, dodging their second E. And at this point, they're a melee cloth wearer with no more burst damage, and they crumpled the rest of our combo. This fight would have been much closer if they had used Dragon Fist Q for extra damage and used the CC to guarantee their second E landing. But I guess they didn't watch my video. We have enough for a 4-4, yippee! Removing 420k from the run to pay for rerolling plus awakening. Fight 7 is right as I get max attunement on the DEATHGIVERS. The tier 7 OC Sleepy Bolt casters sees me as a juicy target, and they actually dismount right next to me, definitely looking for a fight. I dismount and thinking of all the times I've one-shot people using bolt casters, take the coward's way out and pop OC myself. I dash in and get 2 Qs off before they go for the combo. I use Gig to counter while silenced and get some auto attacks in while I can't cast, stopping the end of their E channel short with a chain slash, and get a 3rd Q in. I use my E to stay on them, and even though they're in Cleric Robe, I can still stack a Q while waiting, and once they're no longer immune, the Stalker Boots E finishes them off. In hindsight, I didn't need to OC for this. But being completely honest, bolt casters are scary. Back in the mist for fight 8 against the tier 8 one-hand spear. They're lurking in the middle of the camp, and I need to clear a few mobs if we're gonna fight. I make sure not to use my Q, so my cape is still ready for the fight. I see them running in and assume they're gonna E, and I try to predict with the boots dash. Turns out they were actually just running all the way out, and now I'm playing catch up. We're now about a quarter mile away and they finally decide it's okay to fight. They open with Impaler and I dash in. They instant pop Inferno Shield, which is okay, since now I know they don't have it for my double E. I use this time to get Q stacks and wait for their jacket to end before using Chain Slash and E. They miss their W and then E right after their Q stacks fall off, doing almost no damage. Seeing their peril, they pop OC, and I proceed to throw away the freest of kills. I know they have an undead cape. I inspected them twice. So why did I pop Stalker before E? By the time their cape is done, they're off screen and free. Unless they walk into me on their mount 10 seconds later. Oh, never mind, they still got away. Damn. Fight 8 doesn't really count as a fight. More so just showing the dismount potential of the build. Boots dash, Q, chain slash, Q, E. Leaves your E on cooldown, but does more than enough damage to dismount in the mist. The Firestaff player is able to boots away here, and we get a little peek at some good old lag. I dash to the nearby mob, and then can't use Chain Slash. The player vanishes, then reappears a full screen south, then teleports back next to me again. I'm not willing to die for lag, so I walk out and mount. Fight 9 is against the tier 6 overcharged dual sword. I see them seemingly leave through a wisp, so I head over to the nearby camp. I use up several cooldowns just as they show up, and since I'm 2 tiers higher, I think I can take them even with no cape or W cooldown and a bit of missing health. I make no attempt at dodging their E and immediately overlap my Merc Jacket and Gigpot, halving the effect of the healing. They use Cultist Cowl when they see my Merc Jacket, countering the healing even more than I already did. I E once I have 3 stacks, and once they see my Gig ends, they use their Merc and follow with W to get most of their ticks instantly. I Chain Slash and get a 3rd Q, they instantly Gig as I Stalker and mitigate my double E. This is where I realize the main drawback of this build: no escape. After their E, my only option left is to try to brawl it out, and while I get them close, they do take me down. My main takeaways from this death are as follows. Don't underestimate sustained damage from Dual Sword, especially when wasting your defensives. Speaking of wasting defensives, do not overlap Merc and Gigpod. Basic Albion game sense. Using Stalker Hood is a good indicator for your opponent to use their defensives. In this case, they used a Gig, but against someone with a Reflect, this could turn a fight against you very quick. This build is really good at sticking to and brawling down opponents, but it has basically zero escape potential, so we have to be extra careful against other brawl builds. Takeaways from the run as a whole are: don't waste Stalker for boosted E if the opponent has Invis, especially Undead Cape. Feels really bad to miss a kill for no reason. Using Merc Jacket before Boots and Chain Slash are both on cooldown means you are much more likely to get real value and not just get kited. And finally, consider holding the 2nd E if an opponent has movement abilities off cooldown, as it's a dash and accidentally getting sent the wrong way can cost you what would otherwise have been a juicy kill. Now for the giveaway section of the video. Congratulations to the winner from last video. Your new Force Pulse bracers are on Scion's Island in Limhurst in this present box. The giveaway for this video is the Jacko Donkey skin, currently worth about 5 mil. To enter, all you have to do is subscribe and leave a comment with your in-game name. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.